Today, we will discuss and explore the history of Aztec civilization. The Aztec civilization began to emerge between 1325 to 1521 CE in Central America. They started as nomad without permanent settlement, and their primary livelihood was hunting. They were called Tenochca from Tenochtitlan, or Mexica, which is the origin of the name of Mexico. And they found it a large lake called Texcoco, and they built a large city there called Tenochtitlan. This because their believed god, Huitzilopochtli, told them that they needed to find a place where they would see an eagle standing on a cactus while eating a snake, a sign, a prophecy, and a belief. So here, Tenochtitlan became the center of the Aztec Empire in Mexico and became the most prosperous city with 250,000 people under the rule of Emperor Moctezuma II. So here, we can see that the Aztec civilization had a huge impact, contribution, and achievement on the country of Mexico, because the language used during those time is still being embraced today, the same as the Templo Mayor, which was the former center of the Aztec. This proved that the story and the culture of Aztec are still alive. Beside this, if you notice the flag of Mexico, you can see the symbol of an eagle perched with a snake.
Now let's look into Aztec astronomy, a field that was not just science but also religion, culture, and survival all in one. The Aztecs were highly advanced observers of the skies. They carefully watched the sun, moon, planets, and stars. But for them, these were not just celestial bodies. They believed they were tied to the gods and even human fate. They used two main calendar systems. The first was the Tonaltwali, a 260-day ritual calendar. It was divided into 20 periods of 13 days each, and every single day carried a special spiritual meaning. This calendar guided their religious ceremonies and rituals. The second calendar was the Shapuwali, a 365-day solar calendar. This one was more practical, used for agriculture and festivals. It had 18 months of 20 days each, plus 5 extra days that were considered unlucky. So imagine how carefully they scheduled planting and harvesting, making sure to follow the guidance of the skies. Every 52 years, these two calendars would align, and the Aztecs held the new fire ceremony to renew the world and ensure that the sun would continue to rise. The sun was at the very heart of their cosmology. The Aztecs believed the universe was living through its fifth era, or sun. But there was a catch. The sun god Huitzilopochtli needed human sacrifices to continue his daily journey across the sky. Without them, they feared the world would end. Eclipses and unusual celestial events were therefore taken very seriously, as omens of possible disaster. The ones responsible for studying the heavens were the Tlamantine, or priests. They predicted solar and lunar events, determined the best times to plant and harvest, and most importantly, guided the timing of religious rituals. So for the Aztecs, astronomy was much more than just looking at the stars. It was a blend of science, religion, and practicality. And it was absolutely vital to their society's success and spirituality.
And now let's move on to the number system of the Aztec civilization. Unlike the numbers we use today, which we go from 0 to 9 in a base 10 system, the Aztecs counted differently. They created a symbolic number system that was practical, creative, and deeply connected to their daily life. The Aztecs used a base 20 system, also called the vigesimal system, because they counted with both their fingers and toes. They represented numbers using symbols instead of digits. A dot for 1, a flag for 20, a feather for 400, and an incense bag or pouch for 8,000. By combining these symbols, they could form larger numbers. For example, 627 was represented by 1 feather, 11 flags, and 7 dots. which presented vertically, and at the bottom is the larger symbol that represent larger number. First, the Aztecs has no symbol for zero. This made their system less flexible for certain calculations, especially when compared to the Mayan system, which they use a zero. Second, the Aztec system was mainly written and visual, designed with dots, flags, feathers, and bags to represent numbers. Lastly, the system was very practical and logical, but its main purpose was for administration and ceremonies such as tribute, organizing trade, and keep the ritual calendar, rather than for abstract mathematical problem solving. But their number system wasn't just about counting. It played a big role in their society. In trading, they used it to count goods like maize, cacao beans, and cloth to keep exchanges fair. Then in taxes or tribute, conquered towns paid specific amount of goods recorded with this symbol so the empire could track resources. In the calendar, numbers mark the 365 days a solar year for farming and 260 days ritual cycle for religion. In religion rituals, each day had a number tied to a god, helping priests decide when to hold ceremonies or sacrifices. That's all for the number system of the Aztec civilization.
Aztec agriculture. Aztec agriculture was the foundation of their empire. Because farmland was limited, they developed advanced methods to produce enough food to support their large population in Tenochtitlan. Chinampas. The best known method was the chinampa or floating garden. This man-made island were fertile and allowed year-round farming. The canals between them also made transport easier. Terrace farming. In the hills, the Aztec built stone terraces. This created flat plots of land and prevented soil erosion, making farming possible on slopes. Irrigation. They also built canals and dikes to control water during dry and rainy seasons, showing their advanced knowledge of hydrology. And crops. Their staple crop was maize, supported by beans, squash, chili peppers, tomatoes, avocados, and amaranth. They also grew cacao, which was highly valued. Cacao as currency. Cacao beans acted like money. They used in trade, tax payments, and buying goods. Drinking chocolate was mostly for nobles and warriors. Religion. Farming was tied to religion, wherein God, Tlaloc, was honored with rituals to ensure good harvest.
Aztec medicine was a mix of herbal knowledge and spiritual healing. They believed that illnesses happened when natural elements were unbalanced, when the will of the gods was ignored. So treatment meant curing both the body and the spirit. Healers called Tisitil or Tisitin were highly respected. Some worked as herbalists, surgeons, midwives, and spiritual healers known as curanderos. They believed illness often came from offending God's evil spirits or a spiritual imbalance, so they used many kinds of remedies. The Aztecs used more than 300 plants as medicine. For example, chili peppers relieved pain and congestion. Cacao gave energy and fight fatigue. Aloe healed burns and willow bark helped with pain, similar to aspirin today. This shows how advanced their knowledge of plants was. They also believed in purifying the body through physical treatments. This included massage, steam baths called temazcal, and even bloodletting to restore balance and remove impurities. The Aztecs were skilled in surgery. They could treat wounds, set broken bones, and even do dental work using sharp obsidian blades. Their surgical skills showed both precision and advanced medical practice for their time. Spiritual healing was a key part of Aztec medicine. Illness could come from divine punishment, witchcraft, bad omens, or the loss of vital spiritual forces like Tohali, meaning life energy, or Ihiutal, connected to breath and emotions. One important ritual was called limpia or cleansing. A healer known as a curandero or tepatianime would burn copal incense and wave the smoke over the body while reciting prayers. Many temples temples and sacred spaces were dedicated to these cleansing rituals. The Aztec also linked health to their gods. Tlaloc, the rain god, was connected to water-related illnesses. Xipe-Totec, the god of renewal, was relieved of heel skin diseases. And Quetzalcoatl, the god of wind and wisdom, was associated with knowledge, including medical wisdom.
The historic fall of the Aztec Empire happened in the early 16th century in the years of 1519 to 1521. It was only within 2 years. Here, the most powerful civilization in Mesoamerica came to an end, and thus the under of leadership of Hernan Cortes as Spaniard, the Aztec civilization was completely overthrown. Hernan Cortes arrived in Mexico with only 11 ships and 500 soldiers, a small number if you think about them fighting the Aztec. That's why he established Veracruz as a strategic base. He was accompanied by some native groups, troops, and tribes who were enemies of the Aztec and who wanted to take revenge on them. Emperor Montezuma II welcoming of Hernan Cortes was a huge mistake because he thought his enemy Hernan Cortes was a messenger of God. What he didn't know was that he was just waiting for the right moment to attack the Aztecs. The next is the contributing factors. First is the internal unrest. Because the King Emperor Montezuma II welcoming of Hernan Cortes was a huge mistake. Next is the native alliances against the Aztecs. Because of the establishment of Veracruz, which was composed of native groups opposed to the Aztec, it became a big factor in growth of strengthening of their armed forces. Lastly, the devastating European diseases. One of the biggest factors in the defeat of Aztec was the contagious diseases brought by Spaniards, smallpox, measles, and mumps, which caused the loss of so many Aztec lives. So here, like I said earlier, we can see that the Aztec civilization had a huge impact, contribution, and achievement on the country of Mexico because the history of events and the traditional cultural practices during those times are still embraced today. This proves that the story and culture of the Aztec are still alive.